In this video tutorial, I'll demonstrate how you can use models to show division of fractions. And again, there are several different ways of doing this, so I'll show you a couple of different ways. In this first question, we have 3 divided by 4/5. And what you have to think about again when you're doing division is you think to yourself, how many 4/5 will there be in 3? Or how can I take 3 and divide it into 4/5? Now in this model we're going to use fraction strips, so I've got 3 fraction strips here, or 3 models that represent the 3 in the division question, and I'm going to divide it into 4/5. So the question I'm asking is how many 4/5 are there in 3? Just like when you have 12 divided by 3, you're saying how many 3's are there in 12? So the first thing I do is take a fraction strip that represents 4/5. So this fraction strip down below here represents 4/5. And so we have to see how many of these are going to be equivalent to 3, or how many of these we can get out of this. So even if we just took it and moved it along, we have 1 there, we have another one, that's 2, we have 3, and we've got 3 left over. Line them up, it kind of looks like this. So this is 1 here, 1, 2, 3, and then we've got these 3 left over. So how much of this are the 3 that are left over? And we're working with 4/5. We're working with this segment here. So 3 out of 4. So in this case, our answer is 3 and 3/4 is our result when we take a total of 3 and divide it by 4/5. We're trying to find how many 4/5. So this is 1 4/5, this is another 4/5, another 4/5, and 3/4 of 4/5. So our answer is 3 3/4. And the trouble with dividing with fractions is we're working with whole parts, like this is a whole part, but we're also working with a fraction part, a fractional part. We're working with this 4/5, so we're saying this is 1 4/5. This is a second 4/5. So it's almost like we're mixing units here, but you just have to keep them straight in your head. And maybe the more of them you do, the easier it will get. Now we'll take a question like 4/5 divided by 3. So this fraction strip here, the colored part of it, represents 4/5. So we have to take that section and divide it into 3. How much would it be when we're dividing by 3? So we want to find out how much each one of these is. And because they're different units right now, it's really hard to compare them. So I'm just going to enlarge those a bit so we can have a little bit closer look. So again, this is 4/5, and we're dividing it into 3 sections. So we want to know how much one of those sections is, or each of those 3 sections. So to compare these two amounts, we need to have some kind of a common, what we would call a common denominator, or we need to divide it into a common number of sections or fractions. Think of a number that both the 3, the thirds here, and the 5, and I could divide these into an equal number, and the number would be 15. Both 3 and 5 will go into 15. So I have a strip here that's divided into 15 sections. So what I'm going to think to myself is, now I have the 15 sections. How much is this? Okay, so this is our 4/5 here, and we're dividing that into 3 sections. So you can see that of these 15, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I take the 4/5, this section here, and divide it into 3 parts, each part is 4/15 because I've found a number that I can divide both the fifths and the thirds into to get the resulting number of sections, which is 15. So 4/5 divided by 3 is going to be 4/15. Another way to represent it is with the number line. So here I've got 2 and I want to divide it into by 3/4 or 3/4. Now I'm thinking to myself, how many 3/4 are there in 2? So here's the amount I need here. Whoops. This is 3/4. Okay, so there's 1 3/4. Okay, 1, 2. There's another 3/4. So the amount I'm working with is this amount here, 3/4. So I've got 1 and I've got 2, and then I've got 2 sections left. So how much of the 3/4 is the 2 sections? So the 3/4 has 3 sections in it. So 2 of them are just going to take up 2/3 of that. So my answer is going to be 2 and 2/3. So it's helpful to always be thinking, what is it that the question is asking? And in this case, we're actually asking how many 3/4 are there in 2? Another type of division question you'll run into is dividing a fraction by a fraction. So 3/4 divided by 5/6. And I've taken a number line 0 to 1 and I've divided it into quarters. So the question being asked is, how many 5/6 are there in 3/4? So if I take a look at my number line, I know that this section represents 3/4 here. Okay, or I could represent that with just a rectangle. So I've got this amount here representing 3/4. Okay, now how many 5/6 are there in 3/4? Well, this number line currently is divided into quarters, so I need to divide it into sixths to determine that. So here I've divided the number line into sixths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And keep in mind that this distance is not the same as this distance here. Okay, this is 1/3, or sorry, 1/6 of a number line, and this is 1/4. Okay, so what I need to find out is how many 5/6 there are in this amount. So here I've drawn the rectangle that represents 5/6. So how many of these are in this distance here? Well, I know that it's going to be less than 1 because it doesn't even come up to that. So there's not even going to be 1 of these in this. So it's going to be less than 1. So again, what I have to be thinking to myself is, how do I find a common number that this can be divided into? So I'm going to divide the sixths, each of the sixths, into half. So if I draw halves for each of those, well, this is already in half and another half here. So I'm dividing this entire number line into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now it's easier to figure out how much of this line is. So we can, because this distance here now, we know what this distance is. So we're going to say how much of this is this. So let's take a look just at this rectangle. Let's just bring it up to the number line for a second. So you can see that I've moved it up to the number line, and this can now be divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal parts. And this is 9/10 of that. So if I take this amount and I want to find out how many of these are in it, I know that the answer is going to be 9/10. It's less than 1. This would be, if this was here, it would be 10/10. So 3/4 divided by 5/6 is 9/10. So you should be able to use number lines and fraction strips to demonstrate division of fractions.